Welcome to the Orientation Podcast Series from the University of Ottawa Faculty of Law Common Law section. My name is Professor Kyle Kirkup, and I'm the English Common Law Orientation Coordinator and co-host of this podcast. You will also hear on this podcast channel co-host and French Common Law Orientation Coordinator, Professor Anne Liew. We are both very excited to welcome you to the University of Ottawa Faculty of Law Common Law section. Each week, we will release episodes with professors at the Faculty of Law. Our goal is to introduce you to our law school community and to get you excited about the possibilities of your legal education. We will also have conversations on this podcast in both English and French. You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube with closed captioning, or wherever you are listening to this episode right now. On today's episode, we talked to Professor Jamie Chae-Yun Liew, Director of the First Year Program, and Professor Vanessa Gruben, Vice Dean of the English Program, about what our first-year English students can expect from the upcoming year and beyond. We break down the first-year program courses, solve the mystery of what the heck is a small group, and let you know about some of the exciting opportunities that await you in the upper years of the program. Professor Jamie Chae-Yun Liew is the director of the First Year Program. After articling at a national full-service firm in Toronto, Jamie clerked for Justice Douglas Campbell at the Federal Court, was a member of the Issei Sese defense team at the Special Court for Sierra Leone, and was commissioned counsel at the Cornwall Public Inquiry. In 2007, Jamie opened a feminist legal practice with a colleague. She continues to practice immigration and refugee law today as a sole practitioner. Professor Liew is an expert in immigration, refugee and citizenship law, as well as administrative law and public law. Jamie's current research examines the meaning of citizenship, legal barriers for stateless persons to obtain citizenship and nationality, gendered implications of Canadian law on migrants, and how Canada's immigration and refugee system marginalizes those navigating the process. Professor Gruben is the Vice Dean of the English Program. After graduating from the University of Ottawa's Common Law Program, she clerked for Chief Justice Richard of the Federal Court of Appeal and then Justice Bastarache of the Supreme Court of Canada. She joined the faculty and is assistant professor after graduating as a James Kent Scholar from Columbia University's Master of Laws program. Vanessa's research focuses on the legal regulation of various aspects of assisted human reproduction, including contractual disputes over frozen embryos, privacy and access to information, gamete donor anonymity, the regulation and funding of assisted reproductive technologies, and the constitutionality of the Assisted Human Reproduction Act. Her research also includes health law more generally, as well as the protection of language rights in Canada. Professors Gruben and Liew, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have both the Vice Dean of the English Program and the Director of the First Year Program here with us, two very important resources for our incoming students. So my first question is to you, Professor Liew. I wondered if you might tell us a bit about the First Year Program. What are some of the courses that our students can expect to take this coming fall?
So all first-year students will take the same list of courses, and they include criminal law and procedure, torts, and just to let everyone know, it is not about baking. We're talking about how society regulates the relationships between sometimes strangers. Students will also learn the concepts of property law, contract law, and also take a course on the introduction to public law and constitutional law. There will also be a course on legal foundations, research strategy and analysis, and this is an introduction to the fundamentals of legal research and research techniques. As well, students will have an opportunity to take a first-year thematic course and a dispute resolution and professional responsibility course.
Great. So can you break down what happens in the January term when students take this course, dispute resolution and professional responsibility?
Yeah, in the first year, the intensive January course is in and of itself a separate term. The whole month of January will be focused on one course, which is dispute resolution and professional responsibility. This course will let students learn through simulations and experiential learning exercises to practice interview skills, to learn about how dispute resolution processes and negotiation techniques, learn how to resolve disputes through building new agreements in the way that they represent their clients, and through ethical and professional questions. So this is an intensive 3-week course in the term of January, and Ottawa is unique in having a course like this.
Great. And I remember being a first year student and loving that course because it's so hands-on. It feels like, oh my goodness, I'm actually becoming a real life lawyer. And can you break down the first year thematics a little bit? So this is obviously a somewhat new invention in the faculty, one course that students get to take as an elective. And what can students expect there?
So these are kind of a preview to what the rest of your law school may look like. This is a course where students actually get to choose. So in the first year program, you're learning a lot of the fundamentals through criminal law, torts, property, etc. But you get one course in which you get to explore a different area of law that you might be interested in or you might want to learn more about. There's courses on ranging from technology law to health law to immigration law. So there's all kinds of opportunities for students to explore and to think about what kinds of areas of law they may want to learn about in their second and third year.
Great. And can you break down the small groups in the common law program? I often get a lot of students in the first year program saying, like, what is a small group? How is it different from the other classes I'm taking? What is the purpose? So let's just start with the basics. What is a small group?
So all first year students take one of their substantive law courses in a small group format. The small group could be criminal law, torts, or the introduction to public and constitutional law. So you'll be put into one of those small group courses. They are generally between 18 to 20 students. So it's kind of like a seminar setting, and it is like having a homeroom. It's a small group format where you not only learn the substantive area of that particular area of law, but you also learn techniques and develop your legal writing and legal research skills. This is also a place where students have an opportunity to get to know their colleagues, get to know a professor more closely. It's a more meaningful classroom experience because it gives more opportunity for classroom discussion. You'll get more feedback from your professor, and you'll be able to engage in exercises and assignments that will have the professor giving you regular feedback and assessment. And I have to say, the small group experience is very rewarding, both for students and for professors, because of this opportunity to create community, to create long-lasting friendships, and to have a support network already provided for you as you move through a challenging year as a first-year student.
Yeah, I remember in my small group, often informal relationships start to form fairly quickly. They often get Facebook groups going. I remember one day I had a student come in to say, oh, Chris is going to be late for class today. A pipe burst in his building and he has to deal with the landlord. And I said, oh, how did you learn this had happened? He goes, oh, it was in the Facebook group. And he asked that someone in the group make sure that we let you know. So it becomes a bit of a peer support network, very informally, that I think can be a really nice home base in the program.
It's a nice place for students also to come and ask any question of their professor. I had students come to me last year in my small group to ask me things from, how do we access things in the library, to what's the best place to eat on campus, so they ask all kinds of questions. And I think students also develop really meaningful relationships. I remember when the pandemic first hit, the students in my small group organized rides to various places in Ontario to help each other out last minute. So it is a very rewarding atmosphere and community that you build in your small group.
Yeah, and really even perhaps a community for life. I had some of my small group students attend each other's weddings. It's so rewarding to hear that those relationships are forged often in a small group. Not necessarily, not every small group is going to have that dynamic, but it's certainly something that may happen in the small group. Okay.
I can certainly say one of my best friends is from my small group, and I text her almost every second day. So it is true that you can form lifelong relationships in a small group.
Yes, Great. And so I want to ask you, Professor Gruben, what do you think are some of the ways that students can get involved during the first year program? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of time spent reading and making the entry into law, but do you have any advice on how students might engage beyond the classroom in the first year program?
Thanks, Professor Kirkup. Yeah, I think there are a number of opportunities for students to participate in law school life outside of the classroom. An obvious kind of place to start would be the various student organizations and clubs. So if you're interested in a particular area of law, you may not be, but you want to explore a bit more, you can certainly get in touch with one of those organizations. So for example, I work in, my research focuses on health law, and so there's a health law students association, and it's a group of students who are keenly interested in health law and run events throughout the year, and would be a great place to build some relationships. And of course, there's those kinds of student organizations and associations for a whole range of different topics: family law, international law. I could go on and on and on. There's also opportunities in first year to do some paid work, for example, as a research associate. So that's often a great way to get to know a professor and learn about an area of the law a bit more deeply than you might otherwise in one of your courses. And we do have some specially designed research assistant positions in the first year, our technoships and santeships, which are geared towards first year students. Of course, the Common Law Student Society will have lots on offer as well. So those are just a few ideas of places where students can go to explore some of the exciting stuff that's going on around the law school outside of the classroom.
You want to add anything, Professor Liew, of ways that students can get involved in the first year program?
I would just echo that a lot of the student associations do a variety of things, from forming sports teams to organizing lobby cons to advocate for certain issues on Parliament Hill to creating theatrical performances. So I think there is something for everyone.
Great. Okay, so the first year program is going to be a bit different this year because of COVID-19 and the move online. And so I wonder, Professor Gruben, if you could talk a little bit about what you think the first year is going to look like with this shift away from a bricks and mortar classroom towards an online classroom.
So I think the shift is going to be different really for every student and every course. Our professors are really committed to putting together an exciting and innovative curriculum for our students. And so that's probably going to look and feel a little bit different in every course. But I can tell you there will certainly be lots of opportunities to interact with classmates, interact with the professor, get feedback on work, and those things will be common throughout the courses. So as I say, we're all of the professors are working hard, redesigning our courses, recording podcasts, creating online learning activities, developing really innovative ways to teach online. In fact, one of our colleagues was emailing with me this morning. He said, I can't remember the last time I spent so much time teaching my first year course and how I would do it and what my learning objectives are. And so I do think that there's going to be a lot of excitement around these courses for the fall. And as I say, we're all learning a little bit together, but I'm confident that the curriculum is going to be just amazing.
In terms of, so obviously you talked a little bit about professors, rethinking their courses, getting excited about, reimagining a course that they might have taught for a number of years in a bricks and mortar setting and doing that work. So what do you think are some of the opportunities that present themselves in the online environment?
Well, so, I think some of the opportunities are around creating really innovative ways to build community in an online environment. I think this is one of the things that we've been talking about in terms of the challenges, is it really relates to kind of building community inside the classroom, building that learning community, certainly outside the classroom as well. But, how do you do that inside the classroom when you're not all physically sitting in, for example, photo 147? And so we've been hard at work innovating around how to build community with our students, whether it's in breakout sessions or in other ways. And we've been working a lot with sort of on techniques and ideas outside the classroom. So, for example, our amazing orientation leaders and our online community development team are working on providing a range of opportunities to build community, whether it's fun stuff like trivia nights or sessions on how to learn at law school, which is a bit more academically oriented. There's really going to be lots and lots of opportunities that students will have. In previous years, these sort of started in September, and we're already getting this started now. So I think that's an amazing opportunity that we've had to start building that community at an earlier stage before students actually get into the online classroom this fall. I should also say that our upper year students are also creating all sorts of amazing opportunities to build community online. And I just encourage you, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, to check out what those various student organizations and the CLSS are up to, because I'm confident that they're going to have a lot of really terrific events on offer.
Can you speak a little bit about the kinds of supports that the faculty has put in place for online learning? Because I have seen our colleagues just really step up to the plate, going all the way back to April. So can you just talk a little bit about what the faculty has been up to?
Absolutely. So we have been working with a team of pedagogical experts about how to best teach online and at a distance. So the university has a teaching and learning center that has offered all sorts of webinars and various resources for professors to learn more about how to teach effectively online and at a distance. And in fact, we're very lucky that we've got a couple of professors, more than a couple, I should say. We have a number of professors at the faculty who have quite a bit of experience teaching online, and they are leading a group of they're working with a group of students known as our tech fellows, who are working closely with professors to redesign their courses and think about innovative ways to teach and to assess our students' work. So we've been hard at work getting those courses redesigned, myself included. I'm working hard on my property law course for those of you who happen to be taking it this fall. But we've also put in a lot of additional support. So some of these are long-standing, but we're sort of orienting them towards the online and distance learning environment. So for example, we have student tutors who are associated with each large group course who are available to answer questions and run tutorial sessions. They're working closely with the professor that teaches that course to think of innovative ways to support students academically. And our peer mentors as well, those students are assigned to small groups and really promote wellness and assist with the transition to first year law students. They're working closely with professors as well. And of course, we have a whole other range of resources in our equity and academic success office. Jessica Simon, our equity and student success counselor, is thinking about ways to provide additional supports online. And we've just added a mental health and wellness counselor, Erin Fitzpatrick, to our team, who will provide a variety of counseling supports to students. And I should say, don't forget about your professors. We're always here to answer any questions that you have. We're looking very forward to meeting you and teaching you in the fall.
Yeah, I've been so proud of our colleagues in the way that they've just really stepped up to the challenge of teaching online and, getting ourselves towards a bit of a growth mindset, right? How can we grow from teaching in an online environment? What new skills can we pick up? I'm learning to podcast. I'm learning to do YouTube videos. I'm figuring out innovative ways to teach in the online environment. I wonder, Professor Liew, if you could say a little bit about what you've been up to help with people in the first year program, such as myself, help us get ready for the fall semester and beyond.
Yeah, we've been very busy. I would say we've been hosting a number of discussions and meetings to talk about various aspects of online learning that Professor Gruben just talked about. So We're talking about teaching methods, but also being mindful of how people learn and what does it mean to learn through various aspects of distance, online learning. We've learned new terms such as asynchronous and synchronous, which I think students will get very acquainted with as well. We're talking about building community in our classrooms. We're sharing ideas and brainstorming, sharing resources. Most importantly, I would say a lot of us are very aware of the mental health and happiness of our students. And we have someone wonderful like Professor Linda Collins, who is taking us through some of the research and the resources out there to help our students cope with a new learning environment, but also generally to cope with law school. We are engaging our upper year students. A lot of us are using our small group students from last year to assist our incoming students this year. And they are more than eager. And as we've said, once you are part of our community, we support our community, and that means our students as well. And finally, as Professor Gruben talked about, we're trying to harness the opportunities. We see a number of innovative things happening through online and distance learning. The university is certainly supporting that by, for example, awarding grants for innovative projects online. For example, I'll be doing a series of podcasts interviewing a number of persons with lived experiences in the law. So these are the kinds of things that professors are doing right now. We're actively doing it. We're discussing things. We're sharing resources. And more than ever, we are doing it in a teamwork environment. So I think this year, luckily for 1L students, even though you have a dedicated professor to your course, you'll probably hear from more professors than any other year, because we're sharing resources. We're going to be sharing our expertise. You'll be hearing about the timely and innovative research that our professors are doing in these courses. So I'm really excited to see what actually comes through in the fall semester.
Yeah, I feel excited just listening to you both talk about what the fall is going to look like. So I wonder if we could maybe then shift gears a little bit to the upper year program, because before our students know it, they're going to be finished with 1L, they're going to be making their way into second year. And Professor Gruben, I wonder if you could break down some of the academic programming that awaits our students as they move into second year.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So maybe where I can start is with some of the options that students have in terms of focusing on a particular area of the law. I should say, this isn't something that every student does. It's something that some students are interested in, but good to start thinking about it early on in case it's something of interest to you. So we do have a number of options, specialized options available at the law school. There's different requirements for each, but they generally require about 18 credits worth of courses. And it's a combination of mandatory courses, something off a list of predetermined optional courses, possibly a major paper or some other internship requirement. And we offer these options in a range of different areas. So Aboriginal law and Indigenous legal traditions, we have an option in dispute resolution and professionalism. We have an option in environmental law, health law, international law, law and social justice, law in technology, and public law. So there's a number of different choices if that's something of interest. And I should say there's a faculty coordinator for each of these options. So if this is something that you're thinking about or want some more information about, I'd strongly encourage you to reach out to the faculty coordinator, and they can provide you with more detailed information about the particular option.
And so basically, if a student is, say, really interested in health law, they might say, okay, I'm going to take a bunch of the courses that are required under this option. I'm going to fill out a form, probably get it signed by the person who coordinates the option, and bada bing, bada boom, it'll be listed as an option on my transcript. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. So, and as I say, you don't have to do this in your first year. It's something that you'd probably think about in your second year, but you might want to get some more information about it this year. And you do have a little notation that goes on that transcript that says that you've, done some rigorous coursework in that area, and it, many of our students take advantage of that option.
Great. Let's shift gears and talk about advocacy bundles. This sounds kind of like some kind of a combo that I might order at a fast food restaurant. What is an advocacy bundle?
It does indeed. So, our advocacy bundle is managed and coordinated by Professor Stephen Blair. And essentially, what it is, it's a bundle of courses, of 4 courses that are focused on developing a student's advocacy skills. Those 4 courses are civil procedure, trial advocacy, evidence, and appellate advocacy. And the courses are split over the fall and winter semester, and they're taught in an integrated way. So it's the same 80 students who are taking those 4 courses together over the course of the year. And so they have an opportunity to really build on the skills developed in each course. Obviously, there's lots of benefits to that kind of course. If you're really keenly interested in developing your advocacy skills, it's just a great opportunity to really spend a year focused on developing and thinking about legal advocacy.
Okay, let's talk about mooting. So maybe we'll just start with what is a moot?
So it is an odd little word. So for high speaking generally, a moot is an oral advocacy competition. Most of the time, they're appellate advocacy. So there aren't witnesses involved. It's lawyers, students taking on the role of a lawyer to argue a particular position. But we do have moots that also require participants to demonstrate their arbitration skills, their negotiation or mediation skills, and we do have a couple of trial advocacy moots. So where it is at the level where there would be questioning of pretend witnesses. They are great, a lot of fun. I coach the Walsh Family Law Moot, and it's the highlight of my year every year. And there is a wide selection of moots really covering just about any subject area you can think of at law school that are available for students to participate in.
So I'll try to ask a non-leading question. How would you characterize the quality of our mooting program?
Well, I'm glad you've asked. We have an exceptionally strong mooting program. Our in-house expert, Professor Anthony Damesis, runs a moot boot camp for students, and we have a number of full-time faculty who coach and I can say we tend to do very well competitively. There are many trophies and many plaques across the law school, sort of showing off our success at these moots, not to get too competitive, of course.
Great. And lastly, talk a little bit about technoships and santé-ships. What are these and how can they help students get involved?
Great. So a few minutes ago, I had mentioned some great opportunities for students to get to know the law school outside of the classroom, and technoships and santé-ships are one of those ways. Essentially, they're specialized RA ships that are offered exclusively to first-year students. And they provide students with an early opportunity to work with faculty members either in the Center for Law, Technology, and Society, those would be the technoships, or in the Center for Health Law, Policy, and Ethics, those would be the santé-ships. And those happen over the January and winter semesters. It's generally about 60 hours worth of research work, and you'll learn more about them in and around November. Those 2 centers will advertise for applications for those positions.
Great. So I wondered, Professor Gruben, if we could shift gears just a little bit before we move out of the discussion of upper year programs to talk about the other mandatory classes that students are going to take in second or third year.
Absolutely. So, although it probably feels like second and third year are a long way off, they'll be here before you know it. Typically, our students take about 10 courses in each of the upper years. And most of those courses are optional, but there are some required courses. And I'll just touch on them briefly. You'll learn more about them over the course of the coming year. So, in second year, students are required to take Constitutional Law 2. It's the second part of the constitutional law course. And then in either second or third year, students are required to take civil procedure, administrative law, and business organizations. And in addition to those mandatory courses, we have two additional requirements before students graduate from law school that have to be met in the upper years. The first is the major paper requirement. And just briefly, this is a paper somewhere between 20 and 40 pages, double spaced, that you can take either in the context of a course or possibly as a directed research project with an individual professor on a topic that I recommend most interested in, because it is a big piece of work. So you really want to be keenly interested in whatever it is you're writing. And then the second requirement before you graduate law school, of course, is our advocacy requirement. So all students do have to complete that advocacy course requirement. There's a whole different range of courses that a student can take to meet the advocacy requirement. So, for example, you can participate in one of our moot court competitions. You can take a course like trial advocacy or appellate advocacy, interviewing, counseling, negotiation. There are a number of different courses that satisfy that requirement. And then, of course, for students who decide to work in our community legal clinic, those credits also count towards the advocacy requirement. So lots of options as to how to fulfill that, but it must also be complete before graduation.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe how quickly the 3 years goes by. You'll be through, to our students who are listening, you'll be through first year before you know it, and then be thinking about, am I going to do an option? When am I going to meet my advocacy requirement? Don't forget to get that major paper requirement out of the way. The time just really, really flies. All right, so we'll maybe shift gears now to talk a little bit about advice for our incoming students. So what's interesting for the three of us is that we're all graduates of the JD English program. So we obviously saw value in coming to study at the University of Ottawa. I wonder if, maybe I'll start with you, Professor Liew. Could you tell us what you think makes this place special?
Yeah, I think the proximity to our nation's capital is really the biggest feature of our law school. I can say that many of your professors are regularly intervening at the Supreme Court of Canada as counsel on various cases. They are appearing in front of standing committees at Parliament. And when they do these things, they often involve the research of their students. They often have their students participate in some way or another. And so I think this is a very exciting opportunity that students may be able to access more easily given the proximity of our law school. And then I just wanted to say that there's a lot of opportunities for building community and mentorship. Faculty at our school is very giving, and there are lasting relationships that we see our students as future colleagues. And so, to really take advantage and to get to know the people in our community, that goes with faculty, but also people who come and teach at our school, who are practicing professionals, who work at various organizations. There is a wide community that you can take advantage of here.
And Professor Gruben, what makes this place special to you?
So I wholeheartedly agree with everything that Professor Liew has mentioned. I think one of the other things that really makes Ottawa U special is our people. It's our fellow students and our faculty and our staff. So we have a terrific group of students who have a range of fascinating prior education, work, and life experience. And that really makes for a vibrant and rich student body. And as Professor Liew said, professors really see our students as future colleagues, and it's really exciting for us to get to know you, and to learn all about you and watch you succeed when you leave law school. In terms of our professors, again, as Professor Liew has mentioned, our faculty are leading experts in their fields, and so they have deep subject matter expertise, and of course are called on to be involved in various legal cases, to sit on tribunals, to testify before parliamentary and Senate committees. But they're also really deeply committed to teaching and pedagogy, and as I've mentioned, really just keenly interested in working with our students. And then finally, our staff. Our staff is amazing. They are supportive, they are responsive, and they're, again, really deeply committed to making your law school experience a productive and positive one. So I have to say, one of the favorite parts of my job is the people. We just have a wonderful community at the Faculty of Law.
Totally agree. And I can't overstate how much choosing to come to Ottawa U was probably the best decision I ever made in my life. It set me up for everything that has happened since in my career was because of the relationships that I built while I was here. I remember even when I was applying for professor jobs, I still had professors who were in my JD program writing reference letters and helping me with job talks, so this is a community that I think our students will have for life. So let's talk a little bit about advice for our first year selves. We're going to have to go back in time a little bit, but if you had some advice for your first year law school self, I wonder, Professor Gruben, what you might tell her.
Ooh, that's a great question. It really makes me think back, I must admit. So I think I would tell my first year self to trust myself. The first few weeks of law school can be kind of daunting. And there is so much great advice out there about how to read a case and how to summarize your readings, how to prepare for quizzes, exams, write facta, and there's all of these options that we've spent the last little while telling you about. But it can sometimes feel a bit overwhelming, and it certainly felt a bit overwhelming for me when I sat back to reflect on, what I felt in the first few weeks of law school. So I think I would remind myself that I already had many of the skills that I needed to succeed in law school, and these were really just new ways of applying those skills. So be patient with yourself. It may take a bit of time at first, but don't forget you have all the skills you need to succeed in law school. And don't forget you've earned this spot in law school, and we're all really committed to seeing you succeed.
And Professor Liew, what would you tell your first year law student self?
I would say to try to enjoy yourself even through the stressful times, because it will go by really quickly. And for those times where you feel like you don't understand anything and that someone else in class is talking about something that you have no idea about, just remember that there is someone else in that same class who feels the same way as you do, and that it's okay to ask questions and it's okay to bring it back down to a level that you need to understand things. So to remember you're not alone, to understand that other people may be experiencing the same thing as you, to be kind to one another, and to remember that this is a journey and that you should enjoy it as you go through it.
Well, Professor Gruben and Professor Liew, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I know our students will benefit greatly from this conversation that we've had today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to an episode of the Orientation Podcast series from the University of Ottawa Faculty of Law Common Law section. You can subscribe to the Orientation Podcast series on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube with closed captioning, or wherever you are listening to this episode right now. If you are a first-year University of Ottawa Faculty of Law student, you can also find additional sources at the Orientation 2020 Brightspace page. Thank you for listening, and we can't wait to meet you soon. This episode has been produced by Tech Law Fellow June Gleed.